All right, everyone. Today, I'm going to be going over the top 5 mistakes Amazon sellers make when they're trying to launch their products. Now, all the material I'm about to go into, I'm going to assume that your listing is already optimized. Head to toe, you probably already know how to create a listing that's optimized. So this is already assuming that, everything's professionally done and good to go, okay? This is really the nitty gritty that I haven't heard a whole lot of. There's a whole lot of mess on what to do and what not to do. And I think it's important now more than ever to see the things not to do before you even get started. Because a lot of times, if you can take out the negative, you're just still left with the positive, right? So this is gonna get into the nitty gritty of a lot of strategies that have been popular over the past year or two. And we're gonna really dissect them to see if these make sense to you in your business and what not to do. That way you'll succeed as an Amazon seller in 2019. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into the content. All right, so mistake number 1, entering saturated markets and not bringing enough value to the customer. So long gone are the days where you can just buy a product on Alibaba, slap a logo on it, and expect it to exceed on Amazon. That's what everyone did during the Amazon gold rush. And so now if you want to succeed on Amazon, you're gonna have to ask yourself 3 important questions. And these top 3 questions you're gonna wanna ask yourself are, is there demand for my product, right? A lot of times I see sellers trying to bring something completely new to the marketplace without first having tested, some sort of a prototype or something like that. And so there might not even be demand for the product. And so even if you're going to launch the product, if there's no demand for it, just because you want the product to succeed doesn't mean that there's actually customers already in line to buy it, okay? So the way, entrepreneurs need to think about this, especially Amazon sellers, is where is there a problem I can solve? Okay, so people are not buying physical products. They're buying something that's helping them on their journey, right? So you have to ask yourself, am I creating the demand? Or is there some sort of a trend? Is there some sort of demand I can foresee already happening? Therefore, differentiating, to be completely blue ocean, which basically means, there's not an exact product at all, everything's custom, justifying you going through all the work to do that, right? So first there has to be demand, have a prototype if you're going to launch, something completely new, and make sure that when you're entering a market, it's not already saturated, right? There's not thousands of sellers selling the same thing, okay? So ask yourself, is there demand? 2, does my product have more value than my top 3 competitors? And this is a hard one for newer sellers to implement because there's a lot of shortcuts. A lot of new sellers, they want to get rich quick. They want to take a lot of shortcuts. And serious entrepreneurs on Amazon know that you need to have added value. You need a differentiating factor that's better than your top 3 competitors, okay? So I have a few strategies that I show you how to actually reverse engineer the reviews. So I'll look at the reviews and I'll see before I even order the product, right? So these are things you actually need to be considering before your product is already live on Amazon, because if you're asking this question and the answer is no, it's already too late. So you'll have to go back to the drawing board and, try to come up with something where your product is better than the top 3 competitors, and you'll be able to come to market much more faster than them because they'll have to do a whole new model or try a whole nother variation or do something to compete with you. Therefore, you'll have at least 3 to 6 months ahead of your competition if you launch already superior to them. This is one of my top strategies I do in my own businesses. All of the products I launch are always superior, always a premium. I'm upgrading what's already on the market. So by the time my competitors have time to react to it, I'm already ranking, I'm already getting all of the reviews and having cemented myself already in whatever category or niche I'm entering. I'm always upgrading the top 3 competitors, okay? So you have to ask yourself that. And this one takes time. You know, this one's very time consuming. It's not easy looking at ways to improve products. Sometimes products are really good. So if you want to do something even better, look at the negative reviews. What are people disliking about, you know, the top 3 competitors? Even though they're probably crushing it, there are still holes in a product that customers are leaving 1-star reviews or 2-star reviews. Mind those reviews. And when you're sending it to manufacturers, use those negative reviews as upgrades on your product, right? So that's a little hack that I do in my own business, okay? And number 3 is, can someone buy my exact product on Alibaba and undercut me? So if you're selling on Amazon, you really have to be honest with yourself, and you have to say, did I just buy a product and slap a logo on it? Okay, so what's stopping someone else from going on Alibaba and actually, saying, okay, type in a keyword, find your exact product, and ordering 1,000 units? There's literally nothing stopping, you know, there's infinite competition, because it's that easy for someone to do it. The only thing, maybe they'll change a color or, you know, I don't know, size, shape, whatever, and they're just going to put another logo on it. The manufacturers are loving it. You know, they're making the most money. So if someone can buy your exact product off Alibaba, you really need to go back to point B and say, okay, I need to add more value. And manufacturers, the good ones, are always willing to work with you. They'll do custom things for you. You don't have to order thousands of units. You'll always find a top manufacturer who's willing to work with some of your upgrades for you, and they'll do it really well. You just have to take the time to find them. But this is not a long-term strategy on Amazon, right? You can't just buy a Me Too product, stamp a logo on it, and expect it to succeed long-term, because what's going to happen is, as it gets more competitive, eventually people are going to be buying your product, putting the exact same listings up, using the same pictures as the manufacturers, and the only differentiating factor that's going to separate you from someone else is going to be the price. So eventually it's going to go down a price war where you guys are competing to make less money. That's literally what's going to happen. You guys are going to compete to make less money, because the cheaper products are going to be the ones customers are going to buy if there's no differentiating factor at all. However, if you take the time to do B, you can charge a premium, even if it's adding bundles or doing something like that. Even if you don't have to do like a remodel of the whole product. You can take what they have and maybe add a few bundles to it to add more perceived value. That's still differentiating yourself, okay? So when you're launching on market, this is almost like a prerequisite before launching actually. Do your homework first. It pays to do your homework. Ask yourself these 3 questions, okay? And remember, always think value. Value to the end customer, right? So yeah, that covers it for this one, right? Don't enter saturated markets, add perceived value, ask yourself these 3 questions, and it helps to be brutally transparently honest with yourself. If you could be honest with yourself about these 3 questions, the sooner you can answer these positively, the sooner you're going to succeed on Amazon. If you try to hide these, you know, transparent truths, then you're going to really struggle long term. So do it right. Get the roots, the foundations set correctly. That way you're already setting yourself up for long-term success on Amazon. All right, let's go to point 2. All right, number 2, trying to be an expert in everything, okay? And this is probably the biggest mistake out of all the 5 we're about to go over, is that people are trying to, you know, unless you're already an expert copywriter or, you know, you have a background in how to create high converting listings that appeal to customers, and you know how to place SEO keywords on a listing, how Amazon's algorithm likes it, you're going to struggle. And, you know, there's nothing wrong actually with trying to do the copywriting yourself. You know, in fact, when I first started on Amazon, I did most of my listings, but I did pay for, even it wasn't a lot of money back then, but I did pay for someone to look over my sales copy, I hired the Amazon experts when I was brand new, just to look over everything. If there was any holes I missed in, writing the listing, or, back end keywords, front end keywords, or the keywords are my most important keywords in the title, etc., etc. If you're not an expert in Amazon SEO or an expert copywriter, you should try doing it yourself, but you should also, it doesn't even have to be a lot of money, pay for someone just to look over what you've already done. And it can never hurt, especially if you're a brand new seller. You're not going to know these types of things just from watching YouTube videos and learning how to put it through trial and error. Because once your listing is live on Amazon, if you change the title, you're going to reset your keyword rank. And a lot of sellers don't know that. A lot of sellers are trying to split test with their title, and say you launch and you ranked on page 1, and then next week you're trying to A/B test a different title, different keyword in the title. It's going to completely reset your ranking. And actually, a lot of sellers don't know that, and when they try to change the title back, or make some adjustments to that, it's just never the same. So it's very important that you have your listing set up correctly right out the gate. You already know your top keywords, the placements, the sales copy, everything's perfect. That way, making edits afterwards is basically going to be a no-no. So it's going to pay to do your homework right, get the foundations set up correctly. And again, there's nothing wrong with doing this yourself. Even if you have to pay an expert copywriter or someone who's an expert in SEO, my company's OnRush, we do have copywriters just to look over this for you. It's going to be worth it for the long term. Okay, now part B, this is the meat and potatoes of this entire process. I see time and time again, sellers, their launch strategies are so convoluted nowadays because, everyone's telling you to do Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Amazon PPC, influencers, emails, funnels. And yes, you do need to have a lot of these things in place, but trying to do a lot of these things yourself is where the problem occurs, right? And a good example I had for this is, maybe you know how to put a billboard up. So you're putting an advertising campaign, and you know how to do the billboard, right? You just put on some glue and you put the frame on there. Done. Do you really want to be the one to climb up there, get the equipment, and place it up there? You might know how to do it, or you think you might know how to do it, is a better way to phrase it. But do you really want to do it? And yes, emails are okay, funnels are okay, Facebook ads are great, Instagram ads I'm actually experimenting with, they're pretty great right now, Google ads are okay, Amazon PPC an absolute must, and influencers are straight up just awesome. So the top 3 would be Facebook ads, Amazon PPC, and influencers. Now if you're trying to launch a product and you're trying to do a little bit of Facebook ads, you're trying a little bit of Amazon PPC, influencers, Google ads, and all of these descriptions here, you're not going to be great at any of them, right? There's a reason why Google has, a specific department for Google ads or Facebook ads, Amazon PPC. They have their own departments for people who this is all they do. They help. This is the platform that they're optimized on. And so influencer marketing, you can do influencers and search for them yourself. It does take quite a bit of time, but I recommend doing it on YouTube. But you don't even have to do it manually anymore. There's platforms you can leverage called like FameBit for one, where you'll put your product up and you'll have influencers standing in line to promote your product. Now the most effective one is my favorite, and I've actually, over the past year, me and some of my business partners started a Facebook ad service specifically for Amazon sellers, right? Because we've seen a lot of sellers spend way too much money, and I'm talking thousands of dollars for only a handful of sales on Facebook ads. And so they're so discouraged from using Facebook ads that they're using a discount deal site, which I do not recommend at all, because the hijackers, and it's just a huge mess with that right now. So they're still effective, I digress. But if you could learn how to partner with some of these newer strategies, driving external traffic, outsourcing to the experts, you're gonna be in a much better position. Okay, and I'm actually about to go into Facebook ads right now. And this is another big one, professional photographer. You'd be surprised how many Amazon sellers do not pay for professional photography. You know, if you can do the studio at home yourself, why don't you split test your photo with, you know, maybe a freelancer who's doing professional photography, or a, you know, you can just type it into Google, Amazon photography, and you'll find quite a few people. Is it cheap? It's not always cheap, but what you can do is send a product to them, get it professionally taken, and split test that with your at-home kit. And I can almost 99% guarantee the professional photographer is gonna win out. And that's because they specialize in one thing, right? Photography, copywriters, Facebook ads. Sellers are getting so confused. I get so many emails like every day, just people are wanting to know the latest hack, trick, funnel, whatever you want to call it, and they're just so confused now, right? Because they're trying to be an expert in everything. And outsource what you can. That way you can focus on building your business, you know, bringing more value to your product, getting better deals, better ingredients, quality, shipping times, whatever, warranties, whatever it is in your product. Focus on getting your product better and increasing your product line. And it's gonna be very hard to do that by trying to be an expert in everything nowadays. So outsource what you can. Remember, this is the long-term play. Partner with the experts, and you're gonna be in a much better position right out the gate than if you're trying to wear all of these hats. And again, even if you wanna do some of this yourself, just pay a little bit of money, you know, freelancer, for professional photographer, or copywriter, just to look over what you already have, right? Maybe they don't have to get too much. Maybe you did a good job, right? I'm not saying you won't do a good job. So, but just to have a professional overlook it, okay? And yeah, that concludes this one. Let's go ahead and go to number 3. All right, mistake number 3. And it sounds so gloomy. I'm like, mistake number 1, mistake number 2. I'm not trying to be gloomy at all. I'm trying to go through these as real as possible, if that makes sense. That's why it's called the ugly truth, right? So I don't want to hit each, you know, point. I don't want you to have a negative connotation like, oh, here's another mistake. No, you should actually see the opposite. You should say, okay, this is now bringing more light to my business where I can implement, you know, what not to do, because a lot of times taking things out and avoiding the wrong things is probably and sometimes the most quickest way to success, whether you're an Amazon seller or you know, looking for success elsewhere as an entrepreneur, right? So it's what not to do. So that's the whole point of these videos. Okay, so mistake number 3 is Facebook ads objective. Now, a lot of people, they want to do quite a few things on Facebook, you know, so they want to do landing pages, they want to have funnels, they want to do everything that's kind of circulating throughout groups and pages and other videos. Landing pages, I'm telling you right now, equal friction. So what does that mean? So the reason why landing pages are a terrible idea for Amazon sellers is because it decreases conversions. Now, when your product is brand new on Amazon, you have a really short period of time to prove to Amazon that your product is in demand. So you need to be able to drive as many sales as possible in order to, you know, prove to Amazon that your product's in demand, in order for them to move you higher up in the search term results. So when you're using landing pages, we've actually even seen conversion rates decrease by about 30%, which is pretty huge, as you know, Facebook isn't always the cheapest platform to drive external traffic, but it is the best platform to drive external traffic. So, which is why, you know, especially as a new seller, you know, every dollar counts. And when you're using landing pages, you know, what the method is, you know, you do a landing page, you give the customers like, okay, you want this product for, you know, whatever discount, first send us your email. Customers don't want to do that anymore. Customers don't want to give you their email to get a coupon. What people forget, how should I phrase this? What people forget on Facebook is that Facebook is not a marketplace first. It's a social platform first. Amazon, marketplace. Facebook is a social platform. It's not a marketplace. So when you are selling products to people on Facebook, you need to get their attention. It's usually an impulse, right? It's an impulse that's making them buy this product. So you put a really good deal, you know, you've refined the audience, great copy, great creative, maybe an awesome video. It's the impulse in which they convert. That impulse hits a brick wall when they get to a landing page. Okay, and so when you're putting friction in front of the customer, your conversions are going to go down, so you're not going to get as many sales as you normally would. Now, what people are saying to themselves and what's circulating is, well, at least you're going to be building an email list. And what you do with an email list is you can retarget these customers who gave you their email for a coupon as a lookalike audiences. Now, I can tell you, after doing 600 products on Facebook, over 600 product launches on Facebook, cold audiences perform. It's not always the case, but 80% of the time, cold audiences perform way better than lookalike audiences. And maybe that'll change over time. You can even retarget the same people if you built a huge email list on Facebook if you'd like. It doesn't even have to be a lookalike. You can retarget them. But how many times are people going to want to buy the same product? You have to think about the common sense. There's a common sense factor that a lot of people miss, and it's because they haven't launched very many products on Facebook. Okay, so what people don't know is, if you Google this, go ahead and do average open rate for emails. In 2018, it was 18.1% industry-wide, and this is, you know, you're competing with the top email marketers, the top companies in the world. 18.1%. The average click-through rate is 1.9%. Now, how many emails do you need to collect, assuming that the 1.9% all buy your product? Okay, what people are not noticing, or what people are forgetting, is common sense. You know, these are astronomically low. You're building a list for really what? You would need to build a list of maybe 10,000 plus to get some decent sales. But how much money did you spend to get that list? Whereas you could have focused your efforts, taken these objectives out, and go directly to the sale, right? But people are saying conversion rates, this and this and that. Well, what people forget is, if your product's brand new on Facebook and your conversion rate is 50%, that's our conversion rate at Zonrush. So I'm assuming you're really good at Facebook ads. We're really good at Facebook ads. Our conversion rate on Facebook is 50%. So every 2 people who get a coupon, 1 person's gonna buy. Those are pretty high conversion rates. So we're able to do it very cheaply for sellers and get them ranked, and then the organic traffic, and all the organic sales pick up from there. But when you're doing this strategy, you're gonna have to get email software, write out all the emails, and you're gonna be bombarding customers, you know, buy my product, here's content, buy my product, buy my product. There's only, unless your product is phenomenal, odds are, you know, they're only gonna buy the product once. But you're having to pay for all of these softwares, having to write all of this stuff for 1.9% click-through rate, okay? You can Google this and see for yourself. So this isn't trying to be a doom and gloom. This is just trying to be real about Facebook ads. Landing pages equal friction. Do not do friction. At Zonrush, we don't do landing pages, and we do not collect emails. We go straight to the sale. We do have quite a few funnels that we get real creative. Our funnels convert incredibly high, but that's because of all the data we have. I can tell you with absolute certainty, unless you're a large seller, and I'm talking, if you're doing at least $10,000 a month, maybe you can look into collecting emails, because in the long term, you can't even track a sale correctly on Amazon, right? There's a lot of things you have to do because it's Amazon's website. It's not your website. So you're collecting emails, but then it makes it hard to optimize to get sales on Amazon because they make it practically impossible to track with Facebook ads. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of work to it that the average seller, it'll just get confusing. So if you eventually want to, let's say, start a Shopify store, then yeah, collecting emails, this is where the money is going to be at, but that's your website. Like we have a Shopify store that's going to be closing in at $50,000. We're going to scale it to $100,000 this year. And we have a bunch of emails. I mean, we have thousands, tens of thousands of emails. We use landing pages. This works great on your own platform when you're trying to optimize the Facebook pixel for sales, for leads, etc., etc. If you're optimizing for Amazon, just go straight to the sale. And if you're not an expert copywriter or graphic designer or funnel builder, what have you, following up with customers, outsource it to the experts. Facebook ads is good. My company ZonRush will do this for you. But trying to do these yourselves, you're going to see quickly, again, not impossible. I'm not completely bashing these things. I know a few sellers, but they're larger sellers. Their emails are doing pretty good, but they have over 5,000 emails. They're building a decent lookalike audience. So they're getting a few sales here and there, but it's not worth it for the average everyday seller. But then again, you'll have to experiment with this in your own business and see whatever makes sense. If it makes sense to have them, then do it. If you're seeing the 1.9 click-through rate and you're not seeing the sales, it's probably telling you that you should optimize just for the sale. Okay, so that's mistake number 3. There's a lot of information out there on Facebook ads. People are trying to do landing pages and all kinds of crazy things with emails. Experiment. Just run an experiment. I won't even call this a mistake. We'll call this an experiment. Run this and see how good it is. If it works for you, perfect. If you want to outsource this, my company's ZonRush. This is our #1 specialty. But if you're seeing low results with landing pages and collecting emails, maybe you should look into, like I said, outsourcing this to the professionals. All right. And yeah, that basically covers this. Let's go ahead and go to number 4. All right, number 4, scattered PPC campaigns. So when you're doing Amazon PPC, you really need to think about a strategy. Just like with anything else, with Facebook ads, like I just went over, you need the correct strategy, right? So that means going to the drawing board ahead of time and mapping out your exact objectives when it comes to your marketing campaigns. Okay, now with Amazon PPC, you need to ask yourself, do you have an actual strategy outlined? And you also need to ask yourself, are campaigns optimized for keyword ranking? So real quick, with letter A, a good strategy is not having one campaign for one product with broad keywords, right? So one campaign, here's what not to do. One campaign with broad, exact phrase, right? One campaign having broad, exact, and phrase keywords in them is terrible because you won't know overall when you're launching your campaign, your budget is going to be optimizing for 3 different variables. Whereas if you can segment these 3, you'll be able to more closely measure which variables are more profitable for you, right? Because Amazon is going to be looking at a list of hundreds of keywords, and they're going to decide based on your bid level which variable in this one campaign they're going to put your product in front of. And again, it gets real convoluted if they're all in the same campaign. And I see a lot of sellers make this mistake. They don't have a real strategy when it comes to PPC. They just, they'll look at Amazon, they'll just go through the workflow, add all the suggested keywords and, put the bids, but they'll all have it in one campaign. And when ACoS is through the roof, they don't know which variable to optimize for and which variable to shut down, right? So you need to have a strategy that's both going to be profitable for you and that's going to rank you for keywords. So that means, right, so this feeds into point B here. That means one campaign should have exact match and max 3 keywords. Okay, so sorry, my writing is looks like chicken scratch, but you know, so a lot of sellers have hundreds of keywords and this is convoluted in one campaign. So break these up. And actually, you don't want to have more than 30 keywords for broad and 30 keywords for phrase campaigns. For an exact match, it's only 3 keywords max. And the reason for that is because these objectives here, I haven't even included product display ads, headline search ads. This is just a very general overview for new sellers, right? Having all of these variables in one campaign, split them up. Number 2, you need to have at least one campaign that's optimized for keyword ranking, right? You want to, at the end of the day, focus on getting as many organic sales as possible. And the best way to do that, obviously, is to rank high in the search terms for, you know, your main keywords. And Amazon makes this easy for you, though it might not be cheap, which is why they let you target exact match phrases and you're able to bid on it. So that means if customers are literally typing in your main keywords, you'll show up for that product. And as you get sales for that keyword, you're going to rank higher in the search terms. Now, if you want to take it a step further than in that, you'll only isolate your top 3 keywords because you're going to see real quickly that, you know, depending on how competitive your category is, PPC costs can be extremely high. So if you can consolidate to your top 3 keywords, and if you can bid about 50% above Amazon's suggested bid, you're going to show up more times for these keywords, and it's going to make ranking for these keywords much easier. And so that's why you're going to want to break these up, right? And you'll remember only 3 keywords max. It really depends on your budget, really. I mean, 3 keywords for the average seller is more than enough, you know, to focus and not dilute your results from trying to get impressions for all these keywords. Just have Amazon focus on your top 3, bid higher than everybody else. This is a long-term strategy. This is not going to be profitable. It could actually be profitable for you right away, but even if you're at a break even, this is going to point to C here. Are you lowering your bids too soon? So even if you're at a break-even ACoS here, the point is these are the most valuable campaigns to your business because you're actually contributing to your keyword ranking. Whereas broad and phrase, these can be extremely profitable, but they don't necessarily contribute to you moving up for specific terms because, you know, they're just very different. Misspellings, words placed out of order, things like that. This is the exact match. So this contributes to your ranking. So therefore you can't measure ACoS the same. Well, depends on what your objective is actually. If you want to be profitable, you obviously want to optimize these campaigns, all 3 of them for profitability. That's a given for any business. But your exact match campaign, your main objective is to rank for keywords. That's going to be more profitable for you in the long term than anything else. Okay, so optimize all 3 for profitability, lowering the ACoS, but separate these campaigns first, and for sure isolate one campaign in an exact match with only 3 keywords. And do not lower your bids prematurely because, for example, in the exact match campaign, you might see that your ACoS is, I don't know, 60%, and let's say that's your break-even point, or even, let's say 60% ACoS is your break-even point, and you lower the bids, but you're making sales, let's say, right? So you're making sales, but your ACoS is 60%. The moment you take the steam off, and let's say you're at the top of page 2, you're almost on page 1, and you're trying to optimize for ACoS now, and you're almost about to rank on page 1, if you take the steam off now, it basically makes your 60% ACoS for, you know, however long you've been running that campaign. You're gonna let it dry out because you're lowering the bids too soon for profitability. And again, you do want to be profitable, but look to optimize this specific campaign. Look to optimize bids after you're ranked. Optimize bids after you're ranked. Okay, so do not touch the bids for this specific campaign until you're ranked on page 1. If you do it prematurely, then a lot of your money and hard work is going to go down the drain because you're not going to get as many sales, and those sales, that sales velocity for those specific keywords are what's going to push you to page 1. So optimize for profitability after you're on page 1 and doing really well. Broaden phrase, obviously, you can optimize for a lower ACoS right out the gate, but for exact match campaign, optimize for profitability for lower ACoS after you're ranked on page 1 for your keywords. Okay, so that basically covers scattered PPC. This just brings a little more focus into it. You know, sellers, they have one too many keywords in their campaigns, and sure, if you have thousands of keywords, you're going to get sales peppered in here and there, but you're not going to make any real movement on in the search term results because you're not optimizing for that specifically. You're not isolating that objective correctly. Okay, so put some focus into your campaigns. Again, my team ZonRush, we do a lot of this for you. You know, my team is stellar. We work with 7, 8-figure brands, and we also work with, you know, brands that only have one product. So we know what we're doing with PPC. So if you need help launching with an appropriate PPC campaign right out the gate, check us out, ZonRush. We'll go ahead and help you out. And until then, let's go ahead and go to point 5. All right, and number 5, not using data. So this one is huge because a lot of sellers are playing the guessing game when it comes to finding the right keywords, tracking the keywords that they're ranking for. And so if you're doing things that way, like if you're manually going into Amazon every day or every hour or whatever and seeing what page you are on for, you know, your main keywords, that takes a lot of time to do manually. And it's unfortunate that I know so many sellers doing it that way, where you can leverage tools to do this for you. That way you can have more time to focus on your business. You shouldn't have to be, you know, checking manually what page you're ranking on like every single day. That's crazy. You need software to help you. And the one we use is Helium 10. It's the best software that we have used. Has the most accurate data, and we like Helium 10 because, you know, you're able to track keywords by the hour, and you're able to see which keywords have the most volume and the lowest competition. So that way you can piggyback off of a software like this to build out your PPC campaigns, to create your listing. There's so many cool things you can do with software that doing it manually would just be a disaster. Okay, and there's quite a few softwares, but the one we use is Helium 10. I should have a link in there where you can actually get 50% off your first month if you want to check them out. But yeah, Helium 10 is great for tracking keywords, getting keywords, creating your listings. I mean, the list goes on. So use software to make your life easier on Amazon. You know, the more software, the more partners you have, you know, professionals that you're working with, the greater your success is going to be, you know, in this hyper competitive Amazon space right now. Okay, and search term reports. So this one's super easy. This is actually search term reports created when you're using an auto PPC campaign on Amazon. every 2 weeks, you should be downloading the search term report and seeing which keywords or your money makers. Generally, it's going to be broad, but which keywords you're doing the best on and which keywords you're losing money on. And if you're not downloading this report, the way you're going to use this is, I'm going to make a video actually going over something like Ninja when it comes to Amazon PPC reports. But what you need to do with this is, in order to increase your profitability on using, let's say, an auto campaign, you need to see which keywords you're making money on and isolate them. Isolate. And when you can isolate these keywords, you're gonna make a ton of moolah, okay? And that way, the keywords that you're not making money on, you'll go ahead and put them into negatives. You'll put them as negative keywords. That way you can continue to drive traffic to your keywords that are making money. You'll tell Amazon, hey, look, show up. I want to show up more for these keywords. You can even create your own campaigns broad and take the money makers and create a broad campaign with just those 5 or 10 keywords. And then on the negative side of things, you'll see, okay, I'm losing money, right? I'm losing money with these keywords. Add them to the campaign as a negative, whether it's broad, phrase, or in your auto campaign. But you got to read your search term reports, because a lot of times you might think you know which keywords you're gonna do the absolute best on, but you'll be surprised how it's sometimes there's keywords you had not even thought of that you're making the most money on, and you'll scrape that data and then create your own campaign. But you need to be looking at your search term reports, at least every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, go ahead and download it. That way you can optimize your business to run smoother and more efficiently, right? And last but not least, Facebook ads. So if you're trying your hand at Facebook ads yourself, I'll give you an example. At ZonRush, we do at least 3 creatives per campaign, right? Because you don't know right away, if you're trying to do Facebook ads, you don't know right away which creative is going to resonate with the audience the most. And the message and the creative and the targeting that resonates the most is going to be the one you're going to double down on. But if you have just one audience, one image, just one set of everything on Facebook ads, you are not optimizing correctly. And I think this is why a lot of people give up on Facebook ads, because they're not looking at the data, right? You need to have, at least 3 creatives and at least 3 different audiences. And then after about a week, you'll know which one is the most profitable for you. And again, at ZonRush, we do this for you. So it goes back to, I think, point 2, you're trying to wear an expert hats, Google ads, Instagram, Facebook. If you're not an expert in these things, I can't stress enough how important it is to outsource, right? And to partner with strong tools that will be your ally. That way, it'll make your life easier after the launch to succeed on Amazon. And actually, one of the last points I was going to add here before I forget is, we'll put it here. It'll be budget. So we'll call this one D. So, before I digress a little bit more, Facebook ads have multiple creatives, multiple audiences. That way you'll have the data to optimize, right? You need the data, and you cannot have data with only one set of variables, okay? Data. And last but not least is the budget. So this is what hurts a lot of sellers. They over optimize how much it actually takes to launch a product on Amazon. I see sellers spend thousands of dollars, buying thousands of units of inventory, but when it comes to budgeting the launch, they'll have like $100 or $200, and they think, they'll just put it on a discount deal site and rank on page 1 and make thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not going to work that way. you actually need to strategize correctly, like map out by week or even by day if you can, exactly what strategies you're going to be implementing for them to all run in unison, so that way you'll succeed. And the biggest obstacle you're going to face is underestimating the budget. Okay, so you're going to need a budget, even if it's, let's say, and this is just general, even if it's 10% of what your inventory costs, you need to have that budget set aside for marketing. Because even if it was a mom and pop shop, you know, you're not profitable the first day you put the open sign on your store, right? You got to pay employees, you have inventory costs, you're paying for the land, you're paying the rent. There's a lot of costs associated with even opening up a mom and pop shop. It's the exact same thing with Amazon. You know, you're paying for the inventory. Now you cannot cheap out on the marketing, right? The budget is super important, because what's the point if you have an amazing product but you can't move it? And you know, a lot of groups have people like left and right, just people are underestimating the budget, because you know, Amazon is such an amazing opportunity that people think it's super easy, because the barriers to entry are low sometimes. And you know, if you know what you're doing, and if you're strategic like a real business owner should be, you're gonna know that you're gonna need a decent budget, at least 10-20% of what your inventory cost was, to bring your product to market and succeed on Amazon. You can't cheap out on the budget, guys, because again, you'll have all of this inventory just sitting on Amazon, but if you don't have a budget to market it appropriately, bring it to market, it'll just grow stale in the warehouse, and then there's fees and things like that. So yeah, that basically covers today's training. I hope you guys loved all of this content. There's plenty more on the way, and I'll see you guys on the next video.